We are live, 11:05 on BC, Spirit Cars. And I usually go in the office, and Josh, the voice of Spirit Cars, behind the camera there. You're going to give him a finger, or there's a finger and a wave. It says hi. I usually go, when we do this little video, we do, 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes we'll go up to 20 minutes, and I'll go in the office, and I'll kind of share it around, answer questions, and watch the video as I'm doing all that. So, as I watch the video, this must be makeup for me, because if you look at the video, every time I do this before I start, I don't know if I got to feel my hat is on right or what, but okay, I got that out of the way. I feel better now. Today, we're going to talk about a show car. And what is a show car? Just because you take your car to the show, it's a cool looking old car, and show your car doesn't make it a show car, even if you win some trophies or this or that. In today's world, it's a competition, and then like anything, people are getting better and better and better in the sports world, or whatever the world, whatever the competition is, and the quality's going up, and it's got to be nice, and seriously, it's a competition. So just spending lots of money doesn't guarantee you win. You've got to be on the trend. You've got to be just on top of your game. You got to have the right thing at the right place with the right judges, and for it to happen. So, and when I say show car, I mean at this stage of Spirit's life, it's not what we do. We've done the show car thing, but we're not building a car to go win the Riddler, or not necessarily win, but at least compete in that category, or the Darryl Starbirds. I think he's got the grade 8, fine 9 is the fine 9 of Darryl Starbirds, and grade 8 at the Riddler. If you make even to that select, you're doing good. And we know we've won the gold, the Elegance at a Starbird show, and different ones. So I do understand what it takes to win, or the most beautiful roadster, or a SEMA car, or something like that. It's not what we do, but so what are we doing? Larry T, we're building a show car here. So it's the details. We did an event here quite a few years. We hosted a national T-Bucket event, and then we did the Buckethead Bash, and I would do a top 10. And we hired judges that knew cars, and they didn't know what was our cars and what wasn't. And even though there'd be maybe 100, 150 T-Buckets sometimes, consistently Spirit had cars in that top 10. And I kept asking them, why? You're not, and they didn't even know they were our cars. We may be paying you, but we want fair judging here. It was about the details. There are a lot of awesome cars. You stand back, you look at them, it's just functional, good, detailed. But when we do it, one of our turnkeys, before it, and there's several around here, but we're not going to show that, but before we even turn it over, we have the bottom of that car detailed. It's painted. So if you look under the car, it's as detailed as the top. And that's just a new standard in the world, and that's not even the standard. So because of those kind of details, in just a small show, that will lift you above the competition. So now we have Larry T's car, and he's turning his car into, like I told him the other day, this is not a driver. You're creating a car that as soon as you take it off the trailer and drive it, it's not the same car. But hopefully you drive it and have a good time with it, and that's how I would do. And if you want to freshen it up again in a couple of years, go for it. This is his rear end, TDS, and if I was really going for a true show car, I'd be telling TDS, look, I'm showing off your rear end. If you want me to show off your rear end, they pay you to be advertised. They've actually, this aluminum casting on their housing for a 9-inch rear end, and they've got their name there. Talking to Larry, I wish I'd have brought his drawing out. Larry's good. He sent me a drawing of the car, and I did bring it out. Hold on. Show him something, Josh. I'll be right back. Giving commentary too, or you just good visual there? Okay, no commentary. But Larry, and you can't see this, but he took a picture of his rear end And he's got some notes in here. It's very hard to see, but you know, this and that and do this. Then he gave me a whole detailed list of what he wants on his rear end. And it's to be an example. I want the rear end to resemble the highlighted front I-beam axle. My thought is to polish the raised TDS letters and just like in the very edge of the 6 ribs on the rear of the aluminum housing. I would like also to polish only the machine face of the filled drain holes. And so he's got a lot of ideas. So I had an idea. We just sand it and paint it black. Well, that wasn't Larry's idea. He's thoroughly thinking out this car. He's detailing it to the max. And I don't know, we get to paint a rear end 2 hours, something like that. This is going to take us a lot more than 2 hours. So Josh showed you around this rear end while you're walking around there. Larry's looked at it. I'm sure he's looked at it in pictures. I've looked at it a lot in person. So we have a housing here. It's aluminum. And this is steel. Brackets we put on here. These stiffen it up. These are steel. But again, this is aluminum. So, just looking at it, this has got a pretty cool look with the sandblasted finish. I started doing what Larry was talking about. I sanded my ribs, and you can see this side is not sanded. The way I did that, I took some 80 grit on a DA, sanded with 80. I took some 180 on the DA, sanded with 180. I've got 240 on here now. I sanded with 240. At this point, I did the TDS. At this point, I'll probably go to, say, 600, maybe 400 wet sanding. Go to 1,000 grit, go to 1,500, go to 2,000, get this sanded, and I'll polish all these areas. And we may go in the back, in the front here. But the way the car is set up, it sets fairly high, great big wheels and tires, and then we've featured the car more than once, so you can go back on the Facebook page and kind of look at where we're going with it. So you see a lot of this rear end, and it's a cool rear end, and we want it to stand out. We want it to be so detailed that, wow, you don't see any issues. So instead of just painting over this, we're going to go ahead and body work this around the edges. It's a good weld. I can kind of bevel it down a little bit here, not do any structural change to it. So I'll do all the body work around it. We'll paint the axle. This is metal, so we'll paint the axle. And no doubt we're talking about stainless bolts and caps, or you've had a conversation with him about. So I wouldn't be surprised. We're changing out some of the nuts and bolts, and so we're going to have stainless or cap bolts or something like that. On the front, we can. I'm thinking this is a true posi. Is this a true posi?
Yes.
So we've got our, probably paint this section, leave this aluminum, paint this. So I'm looking back and forth. So I want it to stand out. I want to detail it. I want to have it, and then no doubt we'll paint it and at least get the big areas that you can see, wet sand a little bit and buff it. So we can take just this rear end, which is really nice. I don't know what it costs, but I'm sure it's not a cheap rear end. It's not go to the junkyard and grab an old Ford truck with a 9-inch and stick it under there, or even narrow it to what you want. He's had this one narrowed a little bit to fit his car. It's a Pro Street car. Just the thought process for Larry in this car. I don't know, he might have an hour, who knows, he may stay awake at night or even go to sleep and dream what his car is going to look like. But that's what it truly takes to go over the top, because it's a competition. If you want to show your car in a competition, it's a competition, and your competition is trying to beat you. It's more than just throwing money at it, but expect to spend some money. Some of this kind of stuff is not cheap. He's got us some cool headlights. He's got cool different parts. It's like Christmas every time a package from Larry shows up. So it gives us the opportunity to do that. And this is not what Spirit does. So let's show you what Spirit does. Have you ever watched the old Monty Python show? And now for something completely different. Here we are. Ed was putting this one together, and I decided before, well, I think we've shown us trying to put the guts in one, but not finished. So we're going to show you. This is a Model A. This is our version of a 3031. It's kind of smooth here. 2829 would dish in and go back. It's sitting on our jig, which is a Model A frame. So first thing we do is we get the doors on, and this one has got hidden hinges. We can do it with exposed hinges. And you can you show them the inside here?
Yep.
We can do the car a couple ways. The way the door is, we could do it with a suicide door, or we could do it this way. But you can kind of see how these hinges swing. It's our design. We just build the hinges here. It works for this car. We put metal reinforcing in the front, and it's up and under the dash. I don't know if you can see any of that. Reinforced around the back of the car, and then up into this area. It's triangulated for a little strength here, but especially this is where our hinges are for the trunk. So we've got them all set. So you can kind of see, here's the inner door. These holes here are to access for when you put your window down. You can just go ahead and tighten it down. It goes into a couple rubber slots, which will show over there. I just stick the wire. This is for your power windows. Stick it through over here. The door, why get complicated? We just put a rod coming out. You just push it down. We can use just a little button that way. Works out real well. The double bear claw works good. So let's look at what's in the door. We get the door fitting.
Explain the double bear jaw. We get a lot of questions.
Okay, you see one. And it grabs it on both sides. Do we have the deck lid? Okay, this is in here. You can see on our deck lid, we use a single. There's only one. It goes down and latches and comes up. So for the doors on this door, we use the double, and on deck lid, a single's fine. You could use a double on the deck lid, and it would be overkill, and you could use a single on here, and I would say I would probably use a double. But a single would work here, but it's not the way to do it. And there is a left and a right hinge. I'm sorry, a left and a right latch. The latch that we use, this is two pieces with all the guts built into it, and what they do is they rivet it together. Well, you can get it where it's just riveted together, or you can get it where it's riveted together, it's got threads in it. So we get the ones with threads. I don't know if it always came that way, or we just got it going that way now, and because we used to put the threads in it. So what we do is we go ahead and mock it up in there, get it fitting where it goes, drill and countersink a screw, and then it goes right into the latch itself, into where the rivets would be. So these are threaded rivets. You have a little bit of adjustment here in your striker. We get the door fitting before we put a skin on. The door opens, it closes, it fits nice. On hidden hinges, the placement of the pivot is very important on whether the door is going to open into the jamb or it's going to open up and around the jamb. You can kind of see as the door opens, it opens up and around the jamb. If that pivot's in the wrong spot, it will open just directly into the jamb, won't work. When you're getting a fiberglass car, a couple of the areas that are the hardest to do, I suppose, so they're the weakest in a lot of the companies, is one is the fit of the door and how it shuts. You want it to shut nice. You don't have to bash it closed, and you want your gaps pretty nice around the door. You want everything fitting tight and nice. So we got that. This particular door is going to have an outside door handle. We have a design where we have an inside handle that comes down, or an outside handle that's hidden, just for safety, but we don't do that. Right in here you can also put a, what would have used in the day, just take an old power door lock, convert it and make it into a door popper, but nowadays there's so many kits available. I could get a door popper kit, and put it in here, and it'll pull down. We'll drill an extra hole here, so you'll have a cable coming down, access to it here, and as it pulls that down, then it'll open the door. When I was showing on the other part of a clean car, on a Model A, the window comes in from the factory, from original. The window goes in the top, and then there's a door topper that screws on top of that. Where a lot of like the 32 and the 34, you'll have to take the window and push it down into the door, cock it in, get it up into the track, and it goes up into a solid frame around the top, and they're curved around the top. So this being a Model A, we have a straight channel coming down, and of course we want these two parallel to each other, and then that door topper is going to have an aluminum channel in it also. If it'd be a 32 or a Model A or a 34, we'll have this aluminum channel, we'll cut it, notch it so we can bend that around and bond in. And you can see this aluminum channel is bonded in here. Comes down far enough to where it needs to be. And then there's this filler piece, this channel filler. It's a fuzzy kind of thing. Snaps right in. Okay, it goes right down to where it goes. And it comes out. We don't ever glue them in permanent until after the car is painted. But after the car is painted, I'll put some weather strip adhesive, get it down in there. And when your door skin is on, this is just a tip. You can kind of stuff this down into the door. It's difficult. It's easy to put up here. But if you just take a rod and stick it down here and keep it in the channel and push it down through this area of the opening on the door, you can push that all the way down and that'll push it in. So that's an easier way to do that. Before the door skin gets on, there's a piece that goes in front of this. So there's just the right width for the window and enough room for like a window fuzzy. A lot of times we'll just put a felt on there. Eddie will kind of roll the door panel, so sometimes the fuzzy will be on the door panel itself. Several different ways to do that. You can see on this, these are tight, but there's a nut behind here that will loosen this. This is just a jaw with rubber in between them. So you loosen these up, get your window in, and then you can raise this up to right in this area so you can see. So you slide the window down and make sure it's in there. The odds of you putting all this in at home is you're probably not going to, but if you do happen to build a car and add your own track, remember this has got to go up parallel with this track. It's easy to have this off-centered, you know, it might be out too wide here or in too far there, but what happens is your window's coming up, it's either putting pressure in or out on the window, and there's a good chance you're going to crack the window right there because of that pressure. Not so much problem as you get lower because there's give in the door, but when you get up here there is no give, and you could have that problem. So you roll your window up to where you go, get it tight. From the inside then, I can put my socket through here, I can tighten this little nut on the back side, grabs my window. We like this, it works clean. We can bend it around, we take the tube, there's a rod that comes through here, so as it comes through the motor, it just pushes up into this tube, and then when it comes back down, the rod just kind of pushes this track up. So pretty simple and pretty straightforward. Bolt the motor down. Like I said, we run the wires out just so that it's easy to work the motor. And it's a 12-volt motor, but a lot of your drills are 18 volts. Some of the older ones, most of them are 24 volts now, but I still have some 18-volt ones around. I've not done it on 24 volts, so if you're going to use 24 volts, be careful. But I just take the battery pack out of my drill, and even on the battery pack, there's sometimes they even tell you which is positive and negative, but there's the two, you can get to the prongs or whatever holds it into the drill or whatever tool it is, and you can get to those. And we just take the wires that are here, touch the wires to the battery one way, it goes up, touch the wires to the battery the other way, it goes down. You can adjust your window, try it 3, 4, 5, 6 times, make sure it's working good before you say it's working good and move on to the next step. You can run the wires out the door a couple different ways. You can use those connectors that they just make a contact connectors when the door closes, or you can put a tube through there and run the wires through it, and it will open and close in the door a couple of different ways. So anyway, this is Spirit Model A coupe. Have not put the door skins on it yet, but if you get one of our coupes and you look inside the door, pretty much this is what you're going to have. So this wouldn't be bad to take a picture of this. And I don't know if we've got a picture of that already for people that ask. You know, window tracks are replaceable. The only thing that ever really goes bad is the motor sometimes. And we don't cut a lot of our door panel apart, but if I cut this whole section of the door panel out, so what? There's a hole there and I have access. But I don't need to, so I don't cut it out. But if you do need to cut it out for access because you need to take a motor out or something, you can do that. So we pretty much described what our door is. We've talked about show cars, and I'm sure we'll be talking to Larry. Make sure that that's what you like here on your rear end. And we're fixing to paint that. We're fixing to paint Larry A's car. We've got Michelangelo scheduled for Saturday. Are you going to try to do a live?
We can't get it. I can't get reception, cell phone, or internet.
Yeah, we can't get live in the booth, so you're going to miss out. But Michael does a great job, and he's very good at explaining what he's doing too. So that's for today. I did get my books. We're going to go with Coffee Break Contemplation, just on top here. Hot Rod Man. He wrote these couple books here. I've just been grabbing some quotes out of his books. These are just like thoughts that he has and writes them down. So today's thought: when we hide our eyes, it hinders our visual reality. When we hide our imagination, we hinder our creative possibility. Opening one's mind opens one's world. I'll read that all again now that I've got it figured out here. When we hide our eyes, it hinders our visual reality. When we hide our imagination, we hinder our creative possibilities. Opening one's mind opens one's world. I was at a beekeeping meeting last night. Oh my goodness, my eyes are opened on beekeeping. In an hour and a half, my brain was hurting. There's so many different things, but and then the guy was speaking because a couple of people did it different ways, and he had a lot of 35 years experience doing it. So what he says, you take it seriously. But his response was, somebody did it different at work. He said, "That's the goal. We want it to work. If you can do it one way and make it work, if that works for you, get her done. Just because I do it this way and it works for me doesn't mean it's the way that you have to do it." It's the same way with building cars. So just open your eyes, open your mind, be creative. Let's have fun doing what we do. And if we build show cars like Larry T's doing, or if we build just a fun car to go hang out and go to the shows with, and have a fellowship and relationship with other people into the same thing, whatever it is you want to do, or you just want to get a grocery getter, have fun. So for today, that's it. We'll see you tomorrow.